It's time now for Countywide, a special presentation of Yavapai Broadcasting News. Join Paul David and Brad Miller as they talk with our community's leaders, newsmakers, and people in the know. You'll hear about the hot topics that affect all our lives here in Yavapai County. And now, here's today's Countywide.
Well, good day and welcome to the program. It is Countywide. Brad Miller with you, and we're happy to welcome into studio a new guest. We've not visited with Traces Gordon before. Traces is a crime prevention specialist with the Prescott Police Department. You have been a police officer in one way or another for quite some time.
I have been.
We've heard your name, and we thought, this is the lady that we want to talk to about a very important topic, domestic violence. Now, that's a big umbrella. And today we're going to, I think, try to focus a little bit more on a question that comes up. We've done shows on this subject loosely, broadly with many of our other guests. But Traces and I today, we're going to talk a little bit and share with you that question of why doesn't she leave or he leave?
Right.
That's one thing that you and I were chatting about, that domestic violence isn't always male on female. It maybe is the most common or the one we hear about the most, but it goes all different ways. Gay couples, any couples,
exactly,
can become victims of domestic violence. So we're going to talk a little bit about why that continues even after there's been incidents, and sometimes terrible incidents. So I do want to say thank you for coming, sharing your time with us today.
Thank you for having me.
First of all, we've chatted with you and about you before, and said we've got to have this lady come and chat on our show. So let's just kind of get right into it. As you know, domestic violence doesn't seem to go away. I don't know if it gets better or worse, if we can measure it in degrees like that, but we just pretty routinely hear stories where someone in some type of family setting or domestic setting brings violence upon another one.
Absolutely. And you know, the statistics are shocking, Brad. I was doing some research for our show here, and every day 3 women in the United States are murdered by their spouse.
Every day.
Every day. 4 million women are abused by their partners. Over 3% of male homicide victims were killed by their wives, ex-wives, or girlfriends. And we have that trial, and that high-profile trial in Phoenix. Right now, every 9 seconds, a woman is assaulted in the United States. Every 9 seconds. And battering is the largest cause of injuries to women. It tops auto accidents, trip and falls, anything along those lines. So, and like you said, and I appreciate you bringing this up, it's not just women that are victims. A lot of times women are the perpetrators. We also have incidents in lesbian relationships, gay relationships, transsexual, transgender relationships. So it encompasses the whole spectrum of couples.
It seems like, and now I'm as novice on this issue as anything else I talk about on this show, but I think many of us kind of think that this is a learned behavior. It was around us growing up. And I know that it often is the case.
True.
But does that account for why these things continue to happen?
You know, there are so many factors and variables in domestic violence. Part of it is, of course, our culture these days. We have a lot of violence in the media. A lot of our music lyrics are volatile and disparate towards the opposite sex, whoever that may be. We also have problems with the economy, which causes a lot of stress at home.
Sure.
It's a lot of times this is what people grew up with. This is their normal.
Right.
And so there's just a lot of variables involved.
Drug abuse.
Drug, alcohol,
certainly,
absolutely.
A lot of those common denominators that we seem to hear. And a lot of times when there's one of the persons involved, or maybe even both, that can be one of the reasons. And let's just use she as we talk about this.
Okay.
Let's just use as our broad example, a male injuring or abusing a female. One of the reasons she doesn't leave is because perhaps her mother was abused, or like you said, it's the normal.
Right.
Is that true, that there's such a history that it causes a lot of times these victims to not? There's a lot of people out there who are going to listen to us right now and say, why doesn't she just take her kids and go?
Right.
Find a shelter, find something, find a relative, something like that. Why don't they just flat out leave? A lot of people don't understand why it's not that simple.
You know, it's interesting because I had the same conversation with some friends of mine recently. We were concerned about someone we know, and they kept saying, why doesn't she leave? We don't understand. Well, there's a lot of facets involved. First of all, the domestic violence is a process. It's an evolution. It starts with the name calling, and then it escalates to destruction of property, abuse of pets, pushing, shoving, battering. And so it's an evolution. By this point, the woman, for our conversation, is just so beat down, has no self-esteem, she doesn't think she has any other options. Also, they're worried about economically. What do? A lot of them are stay-at-home moms with children. They have no education, they have no career, they haven't been in the workforce for a while. Also, look at their role modeling. They grew up, their mom was hit, it was okay. She stood by her man. So, and some of them actually believe they deserve it.
Oh.
So there are a lot of factors involved. Also, domestic violence victims, they have a lot of shame, they're embarrassed, they're isolated, and for some reason they think it's their fault. It is absolutely never their fault. There's no excuse to harm somebody. So on top of all of that, you know, who would help them? Why would they help them? Where would they go? They're overwhelmed. So,
isn't at its root domestic violence about power?
It is. Power and control, absolutely.
That's what it's at the very root. When we get in there and we sort out all of the details, it's about controlling someone else.
It totally is. And there's a whole cycle of violence. Do you want me to go over it real quick?
Yeah.
There's basically 3 phases to it. It's like a big circle, and it starts where the tension is building towards the partner. And it could be totally unrelated. There's problems at work, there's problems with money, whatever. Tension's building. Then there's what they call the incident, okay, where there's a battering, there's abuse, there's destruction of property, there's threats or stalking. After that, the final phase is what in the old days we used to call the hearts and flowers. I'm so sorry, it won't happen again. Let me buy you a present. Do you like jewelry? I promise it'll never happen again. And that's the calm. So what happens is a lot of these women, they really feel, let's just get it over with. It's the tension building up to the actual incident that is the most stressful for them. After the incident,
they know it's coming.
They know it's coming, exactly. And one thing I want to point out too, it's not specific just for the women or the men. The children and the pets are also vulnerable.
Sure.
If you can't protect yourself, you can't protect the rest of your family.
When we see these, for lack of a better word, symptoms developing, you described maybe injuring pets, just becoming this kind of gradual build. It's almost hurricane-like the way you described it. It's building and it's growing, and then there's the calm.
Right.
Why doesn't, again, I don't want to sound like I'm blaming the women, but that's kind of the focus of our show, is trying to understand why it's not so easy to leave. But when these symptoms develop, why doesn't that trigger a flight response or a defense response, or maybe it does? You
know, and I was doing some research for the show, and I learned that women are more likely to be killed when they decide to leave. Their chances of being killed are 75% higher when they decide to leave. A lot of times they don't leave. They fear stalking. They fear the perpetrator will show up at their workplace.
Right.
They'll lose their job.
And we hear in the news that does happen?
That does happen frequently, and we do have safeguards in place for that also these days. Also, they are afraid no one will believe them. They don't have support of their family. Sometimes they don't have the support of their clergy and even the authorities. They may say, oh, no, not again.
Right.
So, but fortunately, that philosophy is changing quite a bit in our society.
And it goes back to that core, that root problem of power.
Right.
If she tries to make a move on her own, be it leaving, be it fighting back, be it getting help, he's lost his control over her.
Exactly. And a lot of times the men also manage the money. They dole out the money. So if the woman doesn't have her own resources, she'll be reluctant to forge out on her own.
Right.
So
it's not that easy.
It is not easy at all. And a lot of times also, Brad, the women are saying, well, it's not that bad during the hearts and flowers phase. this is why I fell in love with him in the first place.
This is the man that I met.
Yes.
This is the man I.
Yes. So they rationalize it.
It's such a big topic. We're not looking to maybe to solve this problem on our show today, but trying to point out different kinds of things. If there is someone you recognize, we're going to talk a bit more about that with Tracy Gordon when we come back. What family and friends can do if you suspect you know someone who's being battered or abused or a victim of domestic violence in any way. What is your role? We'll talk about that. Our guest is Tracy Gordon, Prescott Police Department. We're back to Countywide right after this.
So, I'm kind of new here, but I've noticed a trend. My human does this funny thing where she goes around and gets all my toys, and then she hides them in that basket by the door. But it's always the same basket, and it's always in the same place. And then she acts so surprised when I find them, but, she's putting them in the same basket. Again. It's like, hello, that's where you put it last time. You were the worst at hide and go seek.
I was in junior high the first time I caught my mom using denial. She had to have known her painkillers were missing because I kept stealing them. Her denial was so out of hand.
So she doesn't even know? I'm going out.
It was like I could get away with anything.
You kids have fun.
And that was when I knew. When she was addicted to denial.
Denial is a drug. Get help. The partnership at drugfree.org.
So, same time next week?
Well, of course. Put away a few bucks, feel like $1 million. For free tips to help you save, go to Feed the Pig.
Now, some action from the courts. Billie Jean King renewing her rivalry with Arthritis. First set, furious volley, and right to the net for a winner. Beautiful forehand there. Arthritis, stunned. And here, match point. Billie Jean with the ace, taking it in straight sets. Afterwards, a jubilant Billie Jean King.
Tennis is a weapon for me with arthritis. There's nothing like it for me to hit a ball, run to the ball, anytime, any court. I'm ready. Let's go.
What's your weapon against arthritis? Find out at fightarthritispain.org.
We welcome you back to the program. It's Countywide. Tracy Gordon is a crime prevention specialist with Prescott Police Department. Talk about domestic violence today. And yes, it's a very, very big topic. It's talked about nationally, maybe not enough, because it remains a problem. Police officials, any cop will tell you they've been on crime scenes where domestic violence has been at the core, and it can be a heartbreaking thing. I want to get into a subject where this starts to get a little more sensitive. If I'm a coworker, say, of someone who I suspect, Sally comes in and she's wearing dark glasses, and then I notice there's some bruising. She's constantly late. She's crying. Susie comes into the, these kinds of things. People that are kind of in your periphery. If you suspect that they've been injured or are victims of abuse, what is my role? Do I have one? Is it all simply a matter of the relationship that I have with that person, or?
That's a great question. And in the old days, it would be mind your own beeswax.
And still is.
And a lot of times it is. Yeah. But because this topic is so prolific and so much in the media and so common anymore, we encourage people to become involved. Sit down, talk to the person. If they're not willing, go to their supervisor and say this person needs some help. And also, you have to think of totality of the circumstances. Is this abusive spouse going to show up at the workplace?
That would be a huge concern, I think, to anybody.
So there needs to be, you need to consider everyone's safety, not just the victims as well, but try and open a dialogue, sit down and say, there's no judgment. I'm here to help, to listen. What can we do? Let's make you safe. Let's get you to a friend's home. Let's start a checking account. Let's get a restraining order. Let's file charges. Let's go to the hospital, get your face x-rayed, whatever we need to do.
We think about those things in a coworker situation like I described might be different. if you make it a family member, it starts to become more personal and
Right.
Assuming a tighter relationship. If you're the sister of a victim or the mother of a victim or, heaven forbid, the father of a victim, I can't imagine what a dad would go through.
Right.
Then it seems like that dynamic is going to change. And I say that because at some point, does it become incumbent to step in? Are you maybe not legally obligated, but, and everybody's different, but at some point it just seems like I better speak up.
You know what? I was a crime scene investigator for 14 and a half years, and I always felt like I was the voice of the victim.
Sure.
And so I would like coworkers and family members to think of themselves as the facilitator and the voice of the victim. And so please step up, get involved. 1 out of 3 women. I mean, that's huge.
It's someone.
That's huge.
Typically, everybody listening to you
knows someone or knows of someone.
Right.
And so step up, get involved. I mean, why would you look the other way and then later on you say, I should have done something?
Yeah.
So absolutely.
We heard about this terrible tragedy in Phoenix maybe 2 summers ago with a little girl they put in a box.
Oh my God.
Just awful. And then it turned out, and I don't know exactly, there's still a lot on that case that hasn't kind of come out, but it turned out that many of the neighbors knew there was something wrong, maybe not the specifics. So I'm talking about neighbors now.
Right.
And each of these dynamics, I think, is different. The workplace, the family, and now we're kind of with the neighbors. You hear screaming at night. You hear crying. You hear cars peeling away. Someone's mad. And, we've all seen these kinds of things.
Right.
So, again, is it the same situation? Do I just call the police and let them take care of it?
Absolutely, call the police, because domestics are dangerous. They are the most dangerous call any officer can go on.
Right.
And I can tell you that firsthand. So, and a lot of them result in homicide. So it's very important for people, take a minute, call 911. You don't need to leave your name.
Right.
Okay, but if nothing else, after the incident, at least you can maybe babysit the kids for a little bit till the man or woman figures out what they need to do.
Every case is going to be different.
Absolutely.
And to paint it broadly, we simply can't do here.
Absolutely.
But the bottom line, I guess, is try not to be silent about this.
True.
If you can.
Get involved. Speak out.
You've got some great information and some resources for folks.
I do.
Let's go take a break first. Then when we come back, we can do that and get through those without having to interrupt ourselves. So let's go ahead and take a short break. Again, Traces Gordon, Crime Prevention Specialist, Prescott Police. Some great information, some resources, phone numbers. If you are suffering this way or know someone who is, we'll have more information for you on Countywide when we come back.
Having a fire escape plan is very important to keep your family safe and together in the event of a fire. When you awake to the sound of a smoke detector and smoke in your room, don't stand straight up. Carefully roll off your bed and stay low under the smoke. If your door is shut, feel the door with the back of your hand. Slowly open the door if no heat is felt. Always stay low until you get to the outside of your home. Always have 2 ways out of your house and a specified meeting place somewhere outside your home. Home escape plans should be drawn up and rehearsed on a regular basis. This could be the difference between life and death if caught in a fire.
Yes, ready.
Oh, come on, Randy. Animal shelter, here I come. And no, I'm not crazy or emotionally damaged. That's a stereotype. I just belong to a total loser. I'm a good dog. So if you want a pet, adopt. And if you see Randy, tell him he dropped his wallet.
Fire can happen at any time. What would you try to save?
My family photos.
My grandfather's war memorabilia.
My dogs.
I'm firefighter Brandon Wacker with the Cotton Fire Department. A working smoke detector is your best defense in the event of a fire. Make sure you have a smoke detector in every room except your kitchen. Test them monthly and change the battery once a year. Take the time to save the things you can't replace.
Hello everybody, I am Lou Ann Patterson. My family and I would like to welcome you to the Copper Star Indoor Shooting Range, Northern Arizona's premier shooting sports facility. We offer a 25-yard pistol range, a 50-yard archery range, and Arizona's only 100-yard indoor rifle range. In addition, we have a full-line gun shop as well as an archery pro shop. Come Come check us out. We're located at Highway 260 and Cherry Road, right next to Out of Africa. Looking forward to seeing you all.
Welcome back to the program. Again, countywide. Traces Gordon, crime prevention specialist with Prescott Police Department. You're going to be back in a couple weeks. I don't know if we have the show on the schedule yet, and we're going to talk kind of about these issues, but particularly about young people, even teenagers, domestic violence, and some growing concerns among police and among everybody, among the community, that we're seeing these issues a little bit earlier. Or we'll talk about that in a coming show. Younger, I guess, is the better word, among younger people. So Traces will be back in just a couple of weeks. We'll let you know when that one's coming. You had some information, some important things that folks out there can, phone numbers to call and maybe websites to look up to try to take that first step toward getting help.
Absolutely. I'd like to give out a couple phone numbers, so grab your pen and paper.
Okay.
And because almost all of us know of someone who could use some help or some intervention, and I hate for us, Brad, to open this gaping wound and not suture it up before we,
Let's try to do that. That's great.
End our show. So.
Sure.
Your local police department is a great resource. So if you live in Prescott, it's 928-445-3131. If you live in Yavapai County, it's 928-771-3260. In an emergency, always 911.
If
always.
Something's happening.
It's in progress. You hear it. You witness it. Call the police. Parking lot of Walmart. I don't care where you are. Call the police. Stepping Stones is a great resource in our community, and their number is 928-445-4673.
Okay.
Verde Valley Sanctuary is another resource for this side of the hill, and their number is 928-634-2511. Catholic Charities is another great resource, and their number is 928-778-2531.
Okay.
And we also have Prescott Valley PD. Tracy Shellberg is their community service officer, and her number is 772-9261.
Okay.
And ask for Tracy. And once again, always 911 if it's in progress.
What I'll do is I'll take all of that information. We'll put it up on the website. You can find that at myradioplace.com. We'll get it up there as quick as we can a little bit later today.
Great.
And have all of that as just kind of as a resource that folks can take a look at.
Great.
We would really encourage, it seems like that could be the hardest call in the world to make. It seems like it should be easy, especially if you are a victim of domestic violence. But as you've described for us in the show, taking that first step can be very terribly frightening. Perhaps you are running a risk even by doing that, but it seems like that at some point that has to happen.
You know, on the average, a woman will leave between 6 and 7 times before she finally severs the tie.
She'll try.
Yes.
Before she
6
gets it.
to 7 times, and a lot of times they're wooed back or they're scared back, that type of thing. So that's a lot of dress rehearsal.
Very tough.
So it's very, very tough, and these days we have so many resources and shelters and support groups, and the amount of help is endless. And I'd like to give out my phone number also in case someone just wants to talk with me one-on-one, just to kind of brainstorm. My number is 928-777-1967, and that's my direct line in crime prevention at Prescott Police.
Okay. It's difficult, but don't hesitate. A lot of information there. Again, we'll put it on the website, myradioplace.com, a little bit later today, as soon as we can after the shows. You're going to be back soon, and we'll talk further on this subject, kind of focusing on younger people. It's becoming a bigger problem amongst our youngsters. Traces, thank you very much. Traces Gordon, crime prevention specialist, Prescott Police Department. It's countywide, and we'll see you next time.
This has been Countywide, a special presentation of Yavapai Broadcasting News. Listen in each Tuesday and Thursday as we tackle the hot topics and talk to the decision makers across Yavapai County. That's Countywide with Brad Miller and Paul David each Tuesday and Thursday on this Yavapai Broadcasting station.